Okay, we're recording now. Hi everybody, this is Steve Simpson, and this is a Midwest Critical Care Collaborative meeting for May 12th of 2016. And our topic today is Sepsis Avenger, which is a new app produced here in Kansas City by a company named Sora Medical Solutions. Sora is in the business of producing iPhone and Android apps for medical purposes, and they've started actually with a larger piece of app that's called Apollo Med, which is actually in beta testing and which I've been using, but has a lot of really cool stuff on it that is of use in the ICU with different calculators and different bits of stuff. They have a Code Blue recording app in the overall Apollo Med. But what they've done is split off what they call Sepsis Avenger for people to use at the bedside to tick off the various aspects of what it takes to diagnose severe sepsis and septic shock, and also keep in their pocket and tick off when they have done the required elements of care for our CMS bundle. And basically then this thing records the times that all these steps are taken and completed, and then we'll send you in an email or send to whoever you need to send to. We'll send to your sepsis coordinator an email that says these were all completed at this time on this patient. And that will allow data collection and processing for our CMS core measures. So what I thought I would do is give a little demo of that app. And again, I don't know how long this is going to take today. We may not fill the entire hour, and I'm sure you'll all be very disappointed by that. But we will pull it up. Oops. I am dropping my phone. Luckily you couldn't see that. Actually, I often do turn on, I guess, the video cam, don't I? I can do that briefly just so everyone sees. And I don't know, am I showing on the screen? Usually this gives me a picture back, so I know what I'm showing you guys. But we have this nice little app. Yep, and to make it work, I have to do a couple of things. I have to show a QR code from the app. I have to scan that QR code. Then it will allow me to connect to my computer. And before long, we will be seeing my iPhone on the computer. Okay, so I need to ask, does everyone see my iPhone screen on your computer?
Yes.
Perfect. I love it. When technology works, it's very, very nice. Okay, so you can see I have about a gazillion apps on here. These are my medical apps, and the one I'm going to pull up is called Sepsis Avenger. And it looks to me like I had a patient in process. So this is what the main screen of Sepsis Avenger looks like. I think they hope to get testimonials from folks ultimately to say, we use this at the bedside, it works really great, or whatever. It's got what is sepsis, so this links out to a web page to discuss sepsis. Our sepsis hero sadly links out to a video from me about severe sepsis and why this app exists. You won't want to watch that, none of you guys. Maybe some naive person who's never met me might want to watch it, but not you, and then how to contact them. So that's easy. But the key stuff is up here at the top, identifying and treating a sepsis patient. And the nice thing about it is obviously that you carry this in your pocket. So it's very simple. As you're looking at a patient, you can simply ask these questions. Do they have the right temperature? Is the heart rate more than 90? Is the respiratory rate more than 20? Is the white blood cell count there? And voila, you see, actually, the truth is that I would only have to pick 2 of these and then proceed. And then it would tell me your patient has SIRS, and ask this question: does your patient have an active infection or a suspected source of infection? And these are the various different sources of infection, obviously, that a patient could have. And so if they've got that, it says evaluate for severe sepsis. So then it asks, does the patient have any of the following? And of course, these are all our organ dysfunctions. Now, mind you, this is all still the sepsis 2 definitions. And that's perfectly appropriate, I think, and I encourage them to continue with these because our CMS core measures are still based on these. And sepsis 3 is meeting resistance from certain corners, including this one. And we will just have to wait and see what develops with sepsis 3. We certainly know that these are our current definitions that CMS is judging us on as we report our data. So if the patient has any of the following, they have severe sepsis, or they could have septic shock. So what has to be completed within 3 hours? We got to measure a lactate. And I'll just do this. Let's say we measured a lactate and we got blood cultures at the same time prior to administration of antibiotics. Now, so let's say that is done. I've ordered the antibiotics, but they haven't been given yet. I've ordered the fluids, they haven't been given yet. And chances are this may be a nurse with this in his or her pocket at the bedside. And so they've gotten as far as they can get with the patient right now. So they exit out of that and they head off and they go do whatever else they're going to do. They send, they send a text to their friends. They go surfing on the web, whatever it is that ER nurses are going to do when they're not paying attention to this patient. And then the nice thing is they come back to the app and they're right where they left off. So now their antibiotics have been approved by pharmacy and they are hanging. And now they administer 30 ml per kilogram crystalloid. And there it is. And then the question is, now I've given this 30 ml bolus, I'm at the end of it, does the patient have hypotension? Or let's say it's hanging, and so we exit out again. And I think the point of demonstrating that you exit out is just that it will hang on to the times, and I'm trying to make the times be different enough so that when we pull up the email in a minute, we'll be able to tell that they were different. Patient has persistent hypotension. Let's say, yes, they do. So the patient has septic shock. So let's continue. So what do we have to do? We'll give them a little Levophed, and even they max out on Levophed and they need a second vasopressor. And then what are we going to do? We're either going to do the repeat focused exam within 6 hours, or we're going to measure at least 2 of the following. And here is one minor thing about this that I will say is I believe, and I'm sure they'll fix this for us when I point it out to them, that this moves you on if you press that or uncheck it. It moves you on if you press any 2 of these. In point of fact, a person may do multiple of these, may do all 5 of these things. measure CVP, SCVO2, cardiovascular ultrasound, dynamic assessment of fluid responsiveness. You might do all of these things, in which case you would want to have it recorded that you had done that. But let's say for this one, we measured a CVP and an SCVO2, and we got our lactate remeasured within 6 hours. So then it asks you this question: do you want to forward these results? Oops, sorry. Accidentally opened the calculator. And I say, yes, I want to forward this. And yes, I did complete this in real time with the patient. So who am I going to send it to? I'm going to send this one. I think I'll send this one to sqsimpson@gmail. And the reason for that is because you will notice that this email emanates from my ssimpson3@KUMC, and it, I think, wasn't liking that I was emailing myself. Actually, I think I will try ssimpson3@KUMC, and you send it. Okay. And basically, that's what's what with the app. So then let's go take a look here. Oh, no, there it was. Came to me at ssimpson3. It'll tell you this is beta product only, not intended for commercial use, basically. And it says it's not intended for patient identifying information. In truth, what you would want to do if you wanted your patient identified, I think, is you'd have to put some sort of a clue, so that your sepsis coordinator would know who it is that you're talking about. Or you may send that in a separate email immediately after. So you see, what you get is, on this app, it tells you when you picked temperature, tells you when they qualified as heart rate, tells you when they qualified with a respiratory rate, and when they qualified with a white count, which is actually pretty cool. Then you scroll on up. Does the patient have an infection? And you notice there's a timestamp on every one of these. So what it's going to give you is the exact data that you need to go in either the Kansas Sepsis Project database, which I highly encourage everybody to use, or to give to your Medicare collator. I forget what the right word is for the person who you have to give your data to, who sends it to Medicare for the data reporting. But you notice every single place along the way, what time did we see they had a lactate? And it's right down to the second. So let's see what it shows here. So my patient has, so the first line was norepinephrine, and then epinephrine, vasopressin, phenylephrine. So then we say patient has septic shock. Let me back up here. So, yes. So I guess I didn't stay out very long on this app, but you can see we measured the lactate level. It says at 12:12:50. Then at 12:12:52, we said blood cultures were done. So then we exited out of the app. We went and tried to text our friends. We came back, and so 12:13:54. So that's how accurate it is on being able to tell when you took all these steps. So I think if one could get your ER personnel and or your bedside personnel anywhere to stick this in their pocket and carry it and just fill it when they are seeing a patient with severe sepsis, it's going to provide really, really good data for you in terms of what you've done and when you've done it. And I think that's why I'm really excited about this app. I will say that I did help them along the way to develop it, and I did point out to them what I think are the important components of the important components of what needs to be in there. And that contributes, I suppose, to my excitement about it. I think these guys, of course, are in the business for making money, no question. And they hope. So again, Sepsis Avenger is one component of the overall app, which is called Apollo Med, which is here, which right now is not available in full release. It's being beta tested in a couple of hospitals, including here at KU Med Center and over across town at St. Luke's in their residency program. But they've made Sepsis Avenger available for free download for anyone that wants that, just because they are convicted, as I am, that severe sepsis kills too many people, and we need to use all the various tools at our disposal to help improve the mortality. And that's it. I thought I'd leave it up on the screen in case people have questions about one thing or another.
This was not real time.
Gary, I hear that you're talking, but I can't make out the words.
I'm sorry.
Nothing different from usual. I mean, that's what everyone says about.
Click that.
Must be something. Either are you? Let me look here. Are you on speakerphone or you are on telephone? Are you still there?
Yeah, this is Dan Conyers. I was having trouble logging in.
Oh, Dan. Okay, so you're hearing, but you're not seeing.
I was having trouble hearing.
You're having trouble.
I switched from the computer to a phone.
Gotcha. Okay. And how is that now?
Fine.
Fine. Okay. Cool. And Gary, were you asking a question? Oops.
Those things that are evidence-based, as well as the current clinical presentation of the patient.
You know what, guys? I wonder if it's my computer's volume. I may have to break this connection so I can turn up my computer's volume. And MM1. No, this seems to indicate that I've got my volume turned.
Houston, we have a problem.
So the question, Gary says, is what if you said not real time?
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, so the time will be stamped. Yeah, hey, this is cool. So the Gary's questions are coming across on the big screen. The time will be stamped with when you entered it. Yeah, so if you're going through a chart, if you're using this not in real time, you're going to get a timestamp for when you're doing it. So I guess in that respect, if you are recording stuff that's not real time, it's probably not as much of an advantage to you. I don't know.
Houston, we have a problem.
Good question. So Gary's next question is, can they make missing items and alert to you? They can do a number of things, and it all depends on how much total redesign of the app it takes versus some things like messaging. Messaging is as I understand it, sending a message is one of the relatively easier things to do. So that doesn't take a lot of monkeying with the database. So I will ask them if they can do that. Here, let me get it written down. Missing items and timestamps. Like, could they make it so that you could put a time on it? So, not real time. And I expect that the... Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I'm sure you guys all get this too. So if you haven't remeasured the lactate, can it send you a reminder that says, hey, you haven't remeasured the lactate? Yeah, I don't see why not. And I don't know how much engineering that takes. To be perfectly honest, I'm not an engineering guy. And in fact, the guys who started this are all docs, and they're not the engineering guys either. But they have a co-founder who's an engineering guy, who knows about the programming and what it takes. So I can tell them right off the bat. Here's some questions about the app that might make it even more useful. I think it's a pretty cool thing. You may want to try just where you are, getting some. Yeah, I agree with you. It really get people. I absolutely agree with that. I'm going to forward that to Jeff here in a little bit. Let's talk about that for a minute. Now, I know I'm having a hard time hearing you guys. Maybe what I should do is break out of this link mode momentarily. I was breaking out of the link mode for what? Times logged. Oh, I was going to check my volume here and see if my screen. Yeah. Okay, now somebody try saying something. I'll see if I can hear you better.
This is Dan Conyers. I'm on the phone. Can you hear me?
I hear you much, much better. I think I just had my speaker volume turned down too far. And by the way, if there are more questions that involve the app, I'll be glad to relink and put it back up there. But those are really good questions. I mean, so Gary or anyone else, anyone else who's doing this, what do you think? How quickly would you want to be warned that you haven't entered the repeat lactate? You know, I would think that you'd want it before 5 hours and 55 minutes. I just don't know how soon before that would you want to get a warning. Anybody got ideas?
You could get one at like 4 hours, and once you've done it, the next thing you got asked, the answer would be yes. So you quit asking you.
And it quit asking you that. Yeah. And I wonder, that would be something that sits probably right in the app itself, I bet. It wouldn't have to transmit. Yeah, because it's time stamping when you check the box. No reason why it couldn't say this remains undone. Although, the truth of it is, here, I'm going to link us back up again. Darn it. Looks like every single time I link up, I have to do this thing. Take me just a minute here.
Because in real life, the problem is when you're busy and you admit multiple people,
Yeah.
Is you lose track of time, and getting those refocused exams are actually done in the time frame they're supposed to be in.
Right. So it's almost like not even just a written. You want it to actually ding you, like there's a little, like a message,
Yeah,
or something. Yep.
that's what I think would be most useful. If you send us the text and whatever your thing is for a text, you'd look at it and say, "Oh yeah, I got to go back and look at that patient and do a exam, put it in the chart."
Yeah. I wonder.
The only thing you want to try and avoid is if it sent you an alert about everything that you hadn't checked.
Right. Exactly.
There's going to be some things that you chose. You don't have to do all 5 things.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. True. See what happens. Patient has severe sepsis. Continue. Oh, we didn't take this particular route the other time. So the patient has responded to the crystalloid fluid bolus. We continue through. Do they have persistent hypotension? They have an initial lactate greater than 4. So it still takes you to the repeat focused exam if either one of those is true. But yeah, I see what you mean. You wouldn't want to check CVP, and SCVO2 and then be getting texts about bedside cardiovascular ultrasound, which you may or may not want to do, but which at least you have the base covered.
But if you've done 2, I mean, if you only checked 1, you'd want to ding.
Yeah,
if you check 2 things and you have to check 2, then it shouldn't alert you.
And it shouldn't alert you anymore. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what I wonder, I don't really know this, but it almost stands to reason that the app itself could have a little alarm in it. So it doesn't even have to send you a message. All it has to do is ding, and you can see that it's the app going off, which would make you open back up where you were and go, "Oh yeah, this is what I'm missing." That might be the simplest, easiest way to do that. Oops, turn that off again.
I got another question. Can you have more than one patient?
Can you have more than one patient go at a time? That I don't know. That was my question too. And how would you do it if you did have more than one? Would you have to have a separate copy of this, or how would you do it? I don't know.
Right. Could it have patient 1, patient 2 until you've completed and ordered the results?
Right.
Number them.
Right. More than one patient. Yeah, because and that clearly is important in a hospital like yours, or a hospital like Alina in St. Paul, or various. I mean, there are various people who work in hospitals big enough that you may have 2 or 3 different sepsis patients per nurse at any given time. So that is an important feature. And then there are a whole lot of other folks on the line where it's unlikely you're going to have more than one, but so they don't have to worry about it. But yeah, in a bigger hospital, you might easily have more than one patient working. So we need to figure out a way to deal with that. Cool. This is all good feedback that I will. Oops, I keep turning it off. I guess. Any more questions about the app per se?
No, this is cool. I think this could be really useful.
I think
because our biggest problem is you move on to the next patient, you get everything all set up in the order set, but coming back and making sure the lactate got remeasured within the right time frame,
exactly.
that you documented the refocused exam is I mean, those hours take away quick when you're on a physical line.
Yeah. Yes, they do. And your ER, I would venture to say they have a couple 100,000 ER visits a year, and there's a lot of stuff going on in there, I bet. Um, so so yeah, that's a very important point. I'll ask them what it takes to do that.
Yes.
This is a good place, good starting point, and I like it, when I ask them to put the timestamps on and send an email to people so that folks who are keeping track of their data will be able to have that. It didn't take them long, and they said it was fairly simple. So it may be that this alarm thing is fairly simple. It would. I'd be surprised if the doing more than one patient was a simple thing. Honestly. But there you go. And so ultimately, these guys are going to have, like I say, this plus they've got a Code Blue app. Plus they have multiple different. They're all functional like this. This is what it takes to diagnose this problem. This is what needs to be done to treat this problem. Um, they'll be linked, and I'm sorry I can't open Apollo Med for you because it's beta. It expires every month, and I haven't uploaded the new version. But so the sepsis app is a part of that overall app, and the overall app is the one that they're going to sell, but sepsis they are just providing free of charge for everybody.
Dr. Simpson, can like a resident who comes to a rapid response, can they transfer this to like the attending who's going to be taking care of them in the ICU? Is there a way to transfer what they've done?
Yes, absolutely. And the way to do it would be when you get to when you get to that screen where it says, here, I'll just march through really fast. I'll just check everything just so we go. So, see, we wanted to report on that. So I think what you would do right here is that you are sending this to your sepsis data coordinator. You're also sending it to Sora Medical Solutions, and you can copy your attending right there and or fellow, and that's what you would do.
Super.
Yeah, and where we would encourage people here at KU is to copy this to Dustin Pierce,
Right.
because he's the one that tracks our data.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm very enamored with this app that puts my iPhone on the screen, by the way, just about as much as Sepsis Avenger. It's kind of cool. The iPhone is much more readable when it's on a 27-inch screen, I can tell you. So let me see. I think I need to go to AirPlay and turn off mirroring, and voila, we're back to this screen. All right.
I did download this to an Android too, so it does work on Android.
On Android, perfect. Hey Bob, do you think in Wichita, with the residents and students that you have working on your QI programs, would this be something that would be useful to them, or is all of their data collection posterior or after the fact?
It's all chart review over the last number of months, but even then, it kind of helps them remember the criteria.
Yeah. Although, in truth, if you could convince all the students in Wichita to carry this in their pocket and use it in real time, it might help your students that are doing the data collection too.
Right.
Have them email to those students, because that sure beats the heck out of opening a chart to do extraction of data, as we all know, pulled from one field and another field
Houston,
and
we have
another
a problem.
field.
No, it's very nice. I just wish they could override the Medicare criteria and make them more clinically sensible, but they're stuck with that.
That's what we've got, indeed, for some time to come. So Gary just texted me again, Gary Weinstein, and asked, would there be a way to just send the app that's partially completed to the next person who's coming in the ICU? That'd be really cool, wouldn't it? That would be really cool. My bet is, I'm sure there's a way. This is what I learned with software development in the Kansas Sepsis Project database. And it's very similar to the guy who does remodeling in my house. When you go, could you do this? I always say yes. Yes, we can do that. How much money do you have? And that's the key. That's the key question on these software problems. What I would bet, though, Gary, like if you were using it this way, what I would think is what you would really want to do is have some sort of an internal patient identifier. You may not want to use MRN, but you might want to use something else. And then what you could do, like if you're going to pass from the ED doc to the ICU doc who's going to pick up the reins, then maybe the ICU doc could, based on the checkout you gave him, just click through all the upfront stuff and get down to what remains to be done. Then you could tie those two records together easily enough if there's a patient identifier. So when they both get sent to the data collector, he or she goes, oh yeah, here's one from the ER where they made it this far and then sent it to me, and here's one from the ICU on the same patient where they started here and carried it forward. Certainly there are ways to make this work. Obviously, the more of the bells and whistles that you're talking about that the app has, the better the uptake's going to be for anybody.
Houston, we have a problem.
And but not for the real-time alerts. I hear you. It'd help for the data collection, but not necessarily for the real-time alerts. My guess is if they get good traction and uptake of this thing, it's the kind of deal where the more people are using it, the more that you can add stuff to it. And so, this is the way software goes. It starts off with some things that are pretty useful, and then if people have a demand and are actually using it, then they can add stuff to it. So I'll just ask them on all of these things what they can and can't do. And here's what they're going to do with it. Let me type this in here. Sepsis.org is and what you just typed there, Gary, is displaying on my screen, apparently. So that's okay. Everyone knows it anyway. But what they're doing is making it available to, so Sepsis Alliance, and you guys all know I'm a member of the board of directors of Sepsis Alliance, has a Sepsis Heroes event every year where they make awards to people, various hospitals around the country, various people around the country who are very active in sepsis. Carol, I'm going to get to your message here in 1 second. And that's why they named it Sepsis Avenger, because it kind of goes with Sepsis Heroes. But so this is going to be passed out at Sepsis Heroes or announced, and everybody there will be able to download. And this is going to be This is just available for free download to help people do a better job of taking care of sepsis, and a form of donating to the cause, so to speak. I just noticed Carol sent a message, Carol Groen, for those of you who don't know, is at Hayes Medical Center in Hayes, Kansas. And she said they're piloting this application at Hayes Med. I did know that. And have included, Carol, I don't know, what is PCT? Included the PCT that do vital signs. You don't have your mic turned on, the aids. Oh, patient care technician. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Why not? Have them doing the vital signs and clicking on this. This can go to the most basic, all the way down to the most basic. And that is honestly, that is often our weakest link. You've probably noticed it. I've noticed it, that sometimes the now we call them patient care technicians, the nursing aides, the nursing technicians. When I did it, I was called an orderly, and that tells you how long ago it was that I did that. But these folks often don't necessarily recognize the significance of the vital signs that they're taking, and to have them use something like this is a great idea. I think it's a really good idea. And that often is the weak link. And sometimes maybe the RN reviews the vital signs maybe 2 hours later and goes, oh my gosh, this guy's pulse rate is 120. Why didn't you tell me his pulse rate was 120? And the nursing care technician or patient care technician has no idea that 120 is really bad. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea to put this in their pockets, for sure. And we're going to be trying to get it into the pockets of some of the nursing aides or technicians or whatever they're called in nursing homes around the state, so that they actually use it too, to prompt them. And I think probably the less aware you are, the better it is as a decision support tool. And the more aware you are, the better it is as a data collection tool, I would suspect. But hopefully, as you all know, we want everyone in every nursing home and every EMS unit and every hospital in the state to be highly aware. So that's what we're going after. Hey, Denise Motion, you haven't said anything so far. What do you think of this?
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I don't know about the ability to use it real time. Or the put in the times that it was done, as opposed to having to go back at that moment. Just because, you know, in the daily care of the patients that are all electronic now, you know, we advocate for real-time charting, but it doesn't always happen. So they have the ability to go in there at a time and say, I might be charting this at 9, but I actually did it at 8:35.
Exactly. Yeah, I know what you're saying. And that's why I think what they're studying, their pilots, are things like this. Will people put it in their pocket, and do they do a better job of tracking if it's in their pocket right there while they're at the bedside than they do of going back to a computer somewhere and getting it put in? Be an interesting thing to figure out.
And I do think having being available for multiple patients at one time and to call you back if you're coming up on a deadline would make it much more useful. That would
be very good things. Yeah. So I will ask them what it would take to do that.
And did you say what would happen if the patient was just severely septic and never required the 30 mils, just those first 3 initial things?
Yeah, I think that was when I ran through there for Dan Conyers. What happened was we said he has severe sepsis, and if that's all he has, it stops there, and then it gives you the option of sending the data for the things that only apply to severe sepsis.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, you bet. Now, you might want to have some folks download it and play with it, see what they think. Of course, yeah, you never know. You never know. Like I say, the hope is that if you've got it in your pocket, that you might be a little better at doing it real time than when you have to go back to the computer monitor somewhere. But we will find out. Carol Groen can maybe tell us. Carol, how long is your pilot for? Carol's having to type, so it'll take a minute till she can type a message here. It does say, let's see, it does say, Carol, that you have your mic open. Is it just not working? Apparently not. So you just went live yesterday, and I guess you'll see how it goes to determine how long to go for. I would hope that you go at least for a month. And so maybe by next month, you might be able to tell us how things are working. Okay, guys, that really is all that I have for today. It almost took a whole hour. I'm surprised. I thought maybe I'd be done in 15 minutes and everyone would go back to their lives and be finished with me, but I guess we managed to chew up most of an hour. So next month, it's an even month, so the meeting will be in the evening, and it will be 6 o'clock on June 9th. 6 o'clock on June 9th. Carol says she's talking, but no one is hearing, and they are going for a month on the pilot. Perfect. So if you just went live yesterday, maybe you can give us a preliminary report next month, Carol. Guys, thanks. Gary, it's great to Gary Weinstein and Gary Carter. It's great to have both of you on the line. I appreciate you being here. Gary Carter is from North Kansas City Hospital, and we haven't seen him in a while, so it's great to have you here. And Gary Weinstein, it's great to finally get you on here. I hope you'll visit us more often.
Thanks for doing it. Cool.
You're even allowed to call me names, and it doesn't bother me. All right, dudes. That'll do it for today. We will talk to you next month.
Goodbye.
Bye.